All right, we're going to talk about one of the biggest stories of our time. I mean, how did Google go from this little university project to, well, this giant AI empire that basically shapes our entire world? Let's get right into it.
It really sounds like something out of a movie, but this actually happened. So the big question we're asking today is this: how on earth did a couple of PhD students end up building the front door to basically all of human knowledge?
So our story kicks off in the mid-90s, and we're not in some fancy corporate headquarters. We're in a Stanford dorm room. This is where two students, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, who, by the way, apparently couldn't stand each other at first, started a little research project that would, change everything.
And they called this project Backrub. Yeah, I know, a weird name, but the idea behind it, absolutely brilliant. Instead of just counting how many times a word appeared on a page, their system analyzed the links between websites. It treated every link like a vote, a sign of trust that this other page was important. And this, right here, was the revolution. See, before Backrub, search engines were pretty basic. They just counted keywords, which meant it was super easy to trick the system. But Backrub introduced this idea of authority. It was just like academic papers. The more credible sources that cite you, the more important your work is. In the total chaos of the early internet, this brought a sense of order. That right there, that was the game changer.
By 1997, they knew Backrub probably wasn't the name for a future billion-dollar company. So they landed on Google, which was actually a misspelling of Google, the mathematical term for a 1 followed by 100 zeros. It was perfect. It captured their massive ambition to organize a seemingly infinite amount of information on the web. Okay, so having a great idea is one thing, but turning it into a real company, that's a whole different ballgame. The project was about to make the leap from a Stanford server into the real world, and it was going to be huge. And the rise was just incredibly fast. In 1998, they officially became a company, starting in a garage, all funded by a single check for $100,000. Just 2 years later, they figured out how to make money with AdWords, and by 2004, they weren't just a popular website, they were ready for Wall Street.
And when Google finally went public in 2004, its valuation was a mind-blowing $23 billion. The little dorm room project was now a full-blown tech giant. They hadn't just built a tool, they had built an insanely profitable business machine.
So with all that IPO cash flooding in, Google's ambitions just exploded. They weren't satisfied with just organizing the web anymore. Now, they wanted to build the very tools that we all use to live our lives online. And what happened next was just this incredible series of brilliant moves. In 2004, they dropped Gmail, offering a whole gigabyte of free storage, which was just unheard of back then. A year later, they made a quiet little purchase, a mobile operating system called Android. Then, in 2006, they snapped up YouTube, and in 2008, they launched their own web browser, Chrome. I mean, any one of those would have been a huge deal on its own.
So within just a decade of going public, Google had completely transformed. It wasn't just a website you visited anymore. It had become the actual infrastructure for how billions of us search, email, watch videos, and get online in the first place.
Well, as Google's projects got even crazier, we're talking self-driving cars, deep AI research, the company realized its old structure just couldn't handle it all. And this led to one of the biggest, boldest corporate shakeups we've ever seen.
The solution they came up with in 2015 was Alphabet Inc. It was actually a really clever move. They created this new parent company to sit on top. This let the core Google business, search, ads, YouTube, stay focused, while all the wild, ambitious projects like self-driving cars and AI labs could be spun out as their own separate companies. It was a new structure for a new generation of moonshots.
And that brings us to the Google of right now. The company's philosophy has shifted from mobile first to AI first, putting artificial intelligence into literally everything they do. And its dominance in the market today is, well, it's just mind-boggling.
Even today, after all these years and all the competition, Google's grip on its original product is just staggering. It still handles over 90% of all searches worldwide. That kind of market share is almost unheard of in any industry.
And that dominance isn't just in search. Remember that tiny startup they bought back in 2005? Well, Android now runs on over 70% of all the smartphones on the planet. That puts Google's entire ecosystem right in the pockets of billions of people every single day. So what does all this add up to? A value that's almost hard to comprehend. By 2025, the parent company, Alphabet, hit a market valuation of $3.36 trillion.
That puts it in one of the most exclusive clubs of companies in all of human history. From a garage to a multi-trillion-dollar empire. Just incredible.
But even with all that success, the company's story really comes full circle, back to why they started in the first place. This quote from co-founder Larry Page really says it all. It was always about the drive to work on big, important problems.
So it all leads us here. Their original mission was to organize the world's information. And let's be honest, they pretty much did it. But now they're this AI-first behemoth that influences almost everything we do online. So what's their next grand mission? What comes after you've organized everything? That's really the question to think about.